Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tat Padam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidyat Radinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jory, I have a better way of explaining it. So, you are the god of your dream. So what happens in the dream is a microcosm of what Vidyaranya is talking about. So the first thing that happens at night, you go to sleep. Now the stuff of mind then forms into pure tamas. That's called deep sleep. Now, then that stuff of the mind projects and can become a dream. Not only you continue to have the tamas, because you've got the non-apprehension of yourself as the waker, but you've got rajas and sattva. It's illumined and there's activity. Now the question is, what is the stuff of the dream made out of? That is prakriti. And the question is the stuff of the dream of a different substance than my mind, or is it my mind appearing as sleep and dream? And is the mind something separate from consciousness ultimately? So it is the nature of awareness itself, by means of its mysterious Maya Shakti. All this comes into being. What's it made of? Ultimately, only consciousness. But consciousness is kutusta, is stable, still, it never moves, never done anything. Well, then where did all this stuff come from? We don't know. Such is the mystery of Maya. And for those who have yet to really grasp this, the scriptures come up with all sorts of myths to deal with. But can you find a second substance? That's what's critical. It's not consciousness plus some other stuff. Now, I think that's enough on that, but I will point you at two texts. The first is the 4th chapter of the Gaudapada of Mandukya Upanishad, the Alata Shanti, where he thunders the doctrine of ajati. What does ajati mean? You know this.
Ajati is without any caste.
No, unborn. Unborn. Jati means what you're born into. Varna is caste. Jati is being born. In Hindi, it may be a little different. But ajati means nothing is ever really born. And the other one is the Purushottama chapter in Gita. I couldn't tell you what number it is right now. But if you look at an index in the Gita, you'll find that. Where he talks about my higher nature and my lower nature. And it's difficult for the mind to comprehend. It looks like two substances, Purusha, Prakriti, self and not self. Chit, chitta. It looks like two, dvi, but it's not two, advaita. Is that helpful, Jory? Yeah.
Yes, Jim, thank you.
Okay, Mark, what verse are we on?
We're on verse 21.
And can you help us out, please, Ganesh?
Sure. Rajom Shai Panchabhisthesham Ramat Karmendriyani tu Vakpani Padapayupa Sthabidhanani Jagnire. From the Rajas portion of the 5 elements. Jim, do you want someone there to read the English? Or
No, that's fine. Just read the translation of the shloka, not commentary.
Okay. From the Rajas portion of the 5 elements arose in turn the organs of action known as the organs of speech, the hands, the feet, and the organs of excretion and generation.
So what he's talking about here, in Vedanta, we don't talk about 5 senses. We talk about 10 senses. So we have the jnana indriyas, or sometimes called the bhudindriyas. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Information in. And here he equates that with the more sattvic portion. Now we're talking about the karmindriyas, karma indriyas. Hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. Energy out. Information in, jnanindriyas. Energy out, karmindriyas. So from that comes activity. Now, note, we locate these not only in the physical body, the stula sharira, but we also locate them in the subtle body, sukshma sharira. Why? Oh, I had this terrible dream last night. Jim, I was running in mud, and as long as I ran, I couldn't get anywhere because the mud kept sucking at my feet, and I kept breathing, huffing and puffing, and I was so anxious, and I don't know what I was running from, but I was running. So I had feet that I was running, I was breathing, I was pumping my arms, all this stuff was going on in the dream state, in the antakarana, in the sukshma sharira. So we locate the 10 sense organs, both in the physical body and in the subtle body. Way I like to explain it. If you have a mask, a costume that you wear on Halloween, are they doing Halloween in India yet?
Similar to Halloween.
Yeah. So you wear a Richard Nixon mask. The face looks like Richard Nixon. But do the eyes and the mouth, if you take the mask off, can they see and speak? They're lying, they're holes. Put it on. Richard Nixon has eyes. Richard Nixon can speak. So also, when the subtle body is in essence withdrawn from the physical body in deep sleep or dream, there's just a little bit of prana holding it together. What does the body know? What can it do? Nothing. Just a little bit of prana to keep the breath going. All right, any questions about this understanding of the Rajasic portion of Prakriti? Now, I'm going to push back a little bit on Viguranya. So if you look on YouTube and you watch YouTubes about sharks, sharks have these little pits around their nose, and they're able to sense the electric currents going on in the nervous systems of fishes and crabs and things. Under the sand, they can go cruising along, especially like a hammerhead shark. They've got this big thing. They've got a sixth sense we don't have. Or porpoises and whales, they have what they call a melon in their forehead. And they have sonar location. We have hearing. We don't have sonar. So nature is capable of things beyond just the five senses that the scriptures talk about. Infinite is what Maya is capable of manifesting. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Taihi sarvai sahitai prano vrittibhedat sa panchadha pranopana samanascha udana vyano chate punah. From a combination of them all, that is the rajas portions of the five subtle elements, arose the vital air, prana. Again, due to the difference of function, it is divided into five. They are prana, apana, samana, udana, and vyana.
All right, so these are also sometimes called the Panchavayu, the five subtle airs. We go into this in great depth when we study Raja Yoga. Vedanta, that's not that important. And I'll briefly go over what they govern. So prana is not breath. Prana is vital energy. And many spiritual traditions teach us to control that vital energy. For example, have any of you ever studied a martial art? Have you studied a martial art ever? Yes, no?
No.
So, well, that's right, he's non-violence. But you say Tai Chi Chuan? That's not right. Chi is this same as prana. Aikido, ki, the same as prana. It's the same thing. So all of these martial arts, and of course, in the Raja Yoga tradition, we have a whole science of pranayama, learning how to control the bioenergy through control of the breath and through visualization. So briefly, the main prana governs breathing, mostly the inhalation. Then apana, that can be, some texts say it's the exhalation, also governs excretion. Then Dhyana. Dhyana, that one's circulation. No, that's Samana. I always get these two confused. Do you remember, Ganesh?
Samana is digestion.
Samana is digestion, yes. That governs the digestion. And Dhyana then governs the circulatory system. And Udana governs thinking. One of the things that I like to point out, our good friend Ramana Maharshi, in a text of his that I was reading, a disciple asked, how can I acquire a sattvic mind? And his answer was, eat sattvic food. Because the food affects the prana will affect the udana, which will thin out your mind. What is the difference between a fast and a diet? You go on a diet because you want to lose weight. But a fast is a spiritual practice. By limiting the food, the prana all goes to the central organs, and the frequency and volume of thought reduces because there's not udana to make it keep going. A lot of people's minds are. So we've got the physical body, you've got the subtle body, and the means of communication between the two is prana. So if I'm in a good mood and I have healthy attitudes and I live a life according to the Dharma, that will affect the prana, which means I'm likely to be healthier. If, on the other hand, I'm angry all the time and I'm resentful and full of regret, my mind is always in catastrophes and I'm bewailing the terror of the world, those thoughts through the prana eventually will come out in the body. So there are some traditions that say act your way into right thinking, behavior modification. Then there are metaphysical schools that say change your attitudes and your body and your life will change. Yoga says yes, both are effective. Because the mind and the body are really only a subtle and gross form of the same thing. And it's through the prana that communication between mind and body takes place. If you want to improve your health, doing asana and pranayama is a major way to do it. It will be of little effect if you've got a lousy attitude, though. Hopefully, doing asana and pranayama will also affect your mind state. So it's a wonderful science. We actually have image of this in the Western world. If you go to the doctor or the hospital, the doctor frequently will have on their coat the winged caduceus or caduceus of Mercury. Did you have one of those, Dr. Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does that come from?
I don't remember.
Yeah, do you remember what's on it?
The snakes wound around a stake.
A staff. Central staff, and then there's snakes that go like that. And there's wings at the top. It's about Kundalini. They're in Greek culture. They stole it from the Indians. It's a classic symbol of the Kundalini. Through control of the pranayama, you can make the snake a staff. Raise the Kundalini. All of that is in the science of learning to control prana. Now, in Jnana Yoga, our tradition, we can look at it from a little bit different viewpoint. We can say what we focus on is opening the crown chakra first. Who are you? What's your essential nature? And then the knowledge filters down into the equipment. So many people, once they have a very deep nirvikalpa samadhi, they find there's revolutionary changes in their life and their body too. Sometimes people are getting rid of a ton of toxins. You all know the fellow Osho, Rajneesh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So after his awakening, he was deathly ill for 4 months as his body detoxified all its rajas and tamas. Not everybody goes through that. And if you maintain purity in your practice, it doesn't have to affect you that way. But sometimes it does. All right, any other questions, comments on prana? Next verse.
Buddhi karmendriya prana panchakair manasadhiya shariram saptadashabhihi sukshmam talingamuchyate. The 5 sensory organs, the 5 organs of action, the 5 vital airs, mind and intellect, all the 17 together form the subtle body, which is called the Sukshma or the Linga Sharira.
Yes, Sukshma or Linga Sharira. Formed by the Tanmatras, the elements, 5 organs of action, 5 organs of knowledge, the 5 Panchavayu, mind and intellect. I think that's 17, isn't it? 10, 15, 16, 17. Yeah. This is what comprises the subtle body. Some texts will add the vasanas into their description of the subtle body, or the antakarana, the inner equipment. He does not. I think he's going to peel that aside and call it the karana sharira. That's only a matter of what map you use. It's not consequential. It is this sukshma sharira that moves from incarnation to incarnation. Different from the stula sharira, the physical body. It's born, it gets old, it gets sick, and it dies. Out comes the subtle body, it goes to a loka, and it resolves some unresolved issues, and then back into another body. Any thoughts on this? Now, again, I'm going to push back a little bit on Vidyaranya with this question. Do you incarnate into a dream? Are you in the dream? Or is the dream in you? Well, it feels like I'm in the dream. I have a dream body and I have senses, I have prana, I've got a mind and I've got an intellect. But I am not in the dream is in me. And Krishna in Gita takes us through this process. I think it's in the 4th chapter where he says, all this is strung on me like gems on a thread, Mani Sutre. Very famous image. Oh, Krishna is in all of us. Krishna is in you, and me. But then later, I think it's in the 11th chapter, he says, well, actually, that's not it. I am not in them. They are in me. Krishna is the ground of being in which the whole universe exists. You are not in the dream is in you. Then Krishna goes on to say, well, actually, that's not true either. They're not even really in me. If I dream I'm out horseback riding, I don't wake up in the morning with a horse in bed with me. If I dream I'm talking with Nilang in my dream, I don't have to put him in the drawer in the morning. Then Krishna goes on to say, behold my divine Maya, the support of it all. This great, mysterious power of the infinite. Brahman. The locus of Maya is Brahman. It's co-eternal with the infinite. Where things appear to be, but they come about by means of imagination. We have 2 scriptural statements we need to reconcile. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real, is existent. Jagat, the phenomenal world, is mithya, an illusion, a lie, fake news. But then Chandogya thunders, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Sarvamidam, all this means the phenomenal world. Kalu, verily, is Brahman. Well, make up your mind, Jim. Is the world an illusion or is the world God? Yes. You have to reconcile those ideas. The easiest way to come to a direct experience of it is keep looking at the dream state and the world of your imagination. That's, like I say, you are the God of your dream. Your dream microcosmically comes about in the same way as all this. The only difference is you, the waker, forget you're the waker when you dream. Brahman never loses its swabhava. It's self-nature, it's self-knowing, it's self-evidence. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Prajnastatrabhimanena Taijasatvam prapadyate Hiranyagarbha Tanisha Tayor Pyashti Samasthita. By identifying himself with the subtle body and thinking it to be his own, Prajna becomes known as Taijasa and Ishvara as Hiranyagarbha. The difference is the one between the individual and the collective. That is, one is identified with a single subtle body and the other with the totality of the subtle bodies.
Yes. So he's making again this very complicated. He's drawing on the Gaudapada and the teaching in the Mandukya Upanishad. I think we talked about this either last week or the week before. So to review, Mandukya is the explanation, the exegesis of pranava, of Om, Omkara. Om, the word, is all this. Om is beyond all this. Om is divided into Chatushpada, 4 quarters. It's not like the 4 legs of a cow. This is important. It's not 4 mind states. 4th in the series of discussion. Waker. U, dreamer. Ma, deep sleeper. Turiya, the 4th silence, is the Brahman in which these 3 mind states move, both individually and macrocosmically. The individual, waker, Vaishwanara, macrocosmic too, you can say. Nara, a person who knows the Vishwa, the waking state world. Vaishwanara. Taijasa, the dreamer. We have our individual subtle body of thoughts and feelings. There is a macrocosmic subtle body, meaning the totality of all the thoughts and feelings that can ever be thought or felt, past, present, and future. It's called the total mind. And the word that is used in scripture is Hiranyagarbha, which literally means golden egg, but it's a technical term. Oh, I was meditating and I saw this big golden egg. I've seen Hiranyagarbha. No. It's the sum total of all the thoughts and feelings. So here Vidyaranya is saying that's what we call the macrocosmic subtle world. But individually, I have my subtle body, meaning my world of thoughts and feelings, etc. Now, people can tap into Hiranyagarbha. This is where psychics tune into when they give readings about the future and stuff. The difference is kind of like this. So I have a desktop computer. So I have this little tower next to my desktop. On it are all sorts of programs and data and stuff like that. That's my computer's software. It's its subtle body, not its hardware. That's its stula sharira. But I can also log into the cloud. Hiranyagarbha. I get these messages from iCloud. Lord Google Deity, which is the sum total of everybody's programs and data. Where does iCloud live? Everybody can tune in to iCloud. Just like sensitive minds can tune in to the total mind. That's how, for example, you may be very quiet and you just get an intuition. Oh, I just can't get so-and-so off my mind. I think I'm going to call him. You've just been in my thoughts all morning. How are you? Oh, I'm so glad you called. Blah, blah, blah. Anybody have that happen? Or a family member, when they're having a crisis, you know it. Who's had that experience? It's because you're tuning into the cloud. Hiranyagarbha. It's a real experience. Have you ever had images or visions of perhaps past incarnations or locations? We were talking about General Patton, who had incarnation memories of having been a general in many, many different wars and places through history. And in Europe, he would go to a place and he knew where everything was. Where is it that he's tapping that knowledge? All that stuff is in a card file in the cloud. Then prajna is total ignorance. It is pure tamas. On an individual basis, it is our spiritual ignorance. It is pure vasana. Macrocosmically, we have the total vasana. What was it that caused the Big Bang to bang? The potentiality for all this. The other name we have for the universal prajna, Ishvara, the Lord. Ichiti, to will or to wish. Ishvara is he that wishes or wills the whole universe, not just at the Big Bang, right here, right now. Swamiji used to thunder, it's a cosmos, not a chaos. The universe is organized, it's intelligent. If you tune into it, the Master Jesus said, I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within that does all the work. My Father always hears me because I do his will. All these statements about for the person who's in a state of yoga, no more personal self running the show. The And all of us, to some degree, can learn to live by intuition rather than the oscillation of the outer mind. All right. Any thoughts or questions? Everybody clear on these three levels? Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna. Waking state world, subtle world, also the dream world, causal world. Microcosm, macrocosm. Now, at the core of my being is Atma, the self. Sakshi, the witness of it all. And the ground of being of the whole universe is Brahman, consciousness. That Atman and that Brahman. What do the Upanishads say? I am Atma, Brahma. This self, meaning yourself, is Brahman. All right, next verse.
Samashti Krisha Sarvesham Swatmatadatma Swatmatadatmya Vedanat Tadabhavat Tatonyetu Katyante Vyashti Sagnaya. Ishvara or Hiranyagarbha is called totality because of his sense of identification with all the subtle bodies of the universe. The other, the Taijasa, is called individual because it lacks this knowledge and is conscious only of his self being identified with his own subtle body.
So he's lumping Ishvara in with the subtle body. Gaudapada does not, he splits it away. But anyway, the point being, he calls Taijasa the individual dreamer ego. And he says Hiranyagarbha is the macrocosmic, the universal total mind. Question? Okay, next verse.
So Jim, I don't think he's lumping Ishvara with I think he's just using Ishvara as a term for God here, just as a general term for all of them.
All right.
Tadbhogaya punarbhogya bhogaya tanajanmane panchikaroti bhagavan pratyekam vyadadikam. To provide the jivas with objects of enjoyment and make the bodies fit for such enjoyment, the all-powerful Ishvara has made each of the subtle elements partake of the nature of all others.
So the infinite has made or manifested or better imagined this world with individual jivas, meaning our sense of individuality. I, Jim, went up to Piedmont Avenue today. I rode on the bus. I did my dishes. That's different than what you did or what you did or what you did. So I do have a sense of individuality. But Ishvara has also created whales and birds and flowers and all sorts of beings with various upadhis, equipments, and then created a world of name and form for us to, the word is to enjoy, bhoga, but it means to experience. So we can, as it were, enjoy foul-smelling odors or pain or burns and stuff like that. He'll use the same word. but it means the world of objects is there for the individual to experience. This karta, the sense of the doer that's lodged in the subtle intellect. It's doing that. So feeling like an individual is not bad. In fact, it's created by the infinite. It's just not truly who we are. It's not bad, it's just not true. That's the way to put it. Why do you dream? Is it because you're lonely and you want a dream person to relate to? No. I'm not having any fun, so I'm going to dream so I can have fun. No. You mean my dreams have no actual purpose? Well, it's the undigested impressions of the waking state, but purpose? Okay, I'm going to quit dreaming. How successful are you with that? It is the nature of the mind to dream. That's what it does. Just like it's the nature of the tree to have leaves and blooms. It's the nature of the river to flow. It's the nature of the world to be as it is. It is us humans who look for causes. Why? Because. Why? Because. Do not attribute anthropomorphism to the infinite. The Hebrew scripture says we are made in the image and likeness of God. It does not say God is in the image and likeness of us. So what Vidyaranya is ultimately driving at, I like to make things a little more simple. We are dealing with three profound questions. And as sadhaks, as mumukshus, these are the questions we all need to answer. First and foremost, who am I? Kuham. Secondly, what is this world? Thirdly, how has it come about? Who am I? Aham Brahmasmi. I am that ground of being. What is this world? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. This world is nothing but Brahma. Well, how come it's got all the names and forms? By means of Sankalpa. Sankalpa is the process whereby a vritti, a thought, becomes external, apparently objectified phenomena. Thoughts are things and they have wings. It's the old slogan. And that happens individually, and it happens macrocosmically. The Lord does not create the world the way a potter creates a pot. Potter has to have clay, and he's got a potter's wheel, and the pot is other than the potter. No. The Lord brings about the world in the same way as You bring about the dream. Is the dream real? Well, it's certainly a real experience. But is it really there? When I wake up, poof, it's gone. This is no different. This is no different. Now, there's a practice that's implied. We get these slogans. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. How do I get rid of my worries? Quit worrying. Take it easy. Ride the horse in the direction it's going. You don't have to push the river downstream. It's all going to work out. It's all okay. So what do we need to do? We have to turn the volume down on our habituated reactivity to the world of name and form. In the state of spiritual ignorance, I believe that people, places, things, and conditions cause my mind states. Then I'm impelled to want to change people, places, things, and conditions in order for me to be at peace. And yoga says, it's the wonderful metaphor that Ramana Maharshi uses of the movie projector. The self is like the lamp in the movie projector. The mind is like the film. The images on the film are my various sanskaras. And the world I see is what shows up on the screen. So, other slogans that I like. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I am the one with the klesha. It means I'm deluded in some form. I have an attachment, an expectation, an identification. I'm caught in raga and vesha. I'm caught in avidya. And as long as I'm still thinking I'm disturbed and they did it to me, what we call a victim mentality, I have no hope of peace of mind. None. But if I can see that, vairagya, that's detachment. I can learn that my peace of mind can actually be completely independent of the phenomena in the world. Completely independent. Then there's the great question. Who is changing the world more? The activist marching around with a placard? The terrorist shooting at people? Or the yogi in her meditation seat? having the Shakti come through, this transformative power that can heal the world. True story. I was talking with a friend, and they've been in a mind state of, oh, Oakland's not safe. And, I ride my bike, and then people in the cars are so thoughtless, and there's so much garbage, and the homeless people, and it's always so irritating, and all this stuff. And, the solution is to move back to Portland, which is where he used to live. And then he went to this event. It was a bunch of sound healing. I don't know anything about sound healing, but they make sounds and they ring bells and blow horns. It's a meditative technique of some sort. I don't know. It went on for some time. Very active kind of meditation. And he leaves the meditation and he looks up and he goes, how beautiful is the night sky. He saw a different world because he was in a different mind state. All right. Next verse.
Dvidha vidhaya chaikaikam chaturdha prathamam punah swasveta swasvetaraddvitiyam shaihi yojanat pancha panchate, dividing each element into two equal
Wait,
halves.
slow down. Say it again in English.
Dividing each element into two equal halves and one half of each again into four equal parts. The Lord makes the subtle elements so that each gross element thus formed should contain one half of its own peculiar nature and 1/8 of that of each of the other four.
So this is what's called the Panchakaranam. Any of you who've ever studied Atma Bodha or Vivekachudamani, you'll see a chart that Swamiji created that looks like little Pac-Man. So you've got the one tanmatra, which then is cut in half and then combines with the four others. It's a way in which the ancients talked about how the subtle becomes gross. Don't worry about it. I think a much clearer way to understand it. So we have the 5 tanmatras: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And here Vidyaranya is saying those going through the Panchakaranam, the 5-fold division and subsequent recombination, manifest the gross world. I tell you, when I first heard this teaching, I went, no! This is, you make stuff up. That's not how the world is made. We know that it's made of chemistry and then atomic theory and then subatomic theory, and earth is not an element. Iron is an element. Helium is an element. Bad science, bad science. And then it was Swami Tejomayananda who explained to me that it has to do with yoga's understanding of perception. I think we may have done it with this class before. Did we talk about what's the coffee table made of?
Yes.
So again, what's the difference between the coffee table of the waking state and if I were dreaming about Jim's coffee table? This is just a grosser vibration. That's all. That's all that Vidyaranya is saying. That the phenomenal world is still made up of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, which then manifests as the sense organs, the sense perceptions, and the sense objects. Subtle form, they go to the Panchakarana, gross form. All the coffee table is a collection of some manifestation and combination of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling. It's still just mind. Now, this thunderous idea in yoga that the phenomenal world, the jagat, is not material and not separate from consciousness has enormous ramifications. And we have whole schools that are based on this. We call these the Tantra schools. And the basic idea behind Tantra, all this may be like a dream, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare. We have a lot more freedom to change this phenomenal world than we think we do. I'm not going to go into that too much tonight. But there are two processes as yogis we want to look at when it comes to our minds, the content of our minds, meaning our thoughts and feelings. The most important is relational. I want to call out, do my viveka. I am not my feelings. I am not my thoughts. I'm ever the witness of them. I'm Sakshi, witness. But then we can also take a look at the content of our thoughts and feelings, understanding what Vidyaranya is talking about. The phenomenal world is nothing but grossified thought. So I go back to the Yoga Sutra, and the first sutra of the second chapter is one of my favorites. Tapas Swadhyayeshwara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. Have I shared that in this class? No. Tapas, austerity. Swadhyaya, the way Patanjali uses it is different than the way the Vedantins do. The Vedantins say it means our own study of scripture. Patanjali means our own psychological inventory. Knowing my own kleshas, my own afflictions, and my character assets. Ishvara Pranidhana is trustful surrender to God. Those three elements together. Kriya Yoga, yoga in action. Karma is a completed fact, it's done. Kriya is an action going on. So we actually take it from the inside out. We start with an honest examination of our habituated thought life. Is my life filled with fear? Is that my chief motivator? Do I have control issues? Do I want to dominate situations? Am I fundamentally just greedy? More, more, more. Am I compulsive about wanting the attention and approval of others? Do I need to be the number one person in politics or even in my local social circle? I could go on. So we have to take a good hard look at this. And then what Patanjali says is now we engage in the practice of thought replacement. So, for example, if I'm habitually fearful, what's the opposite idea? God's in charge. It's going to be okay. This is the toughest. This is far more important than standing on one leg or staying up all night on Shivaratri. If I have habituated resentment for other people, family members or something, can I say, no, I'm going to actively bless them every day. Pray for their well-being, pray for their health and happiness. If I'm controlling, no, let go. God's in charge. If I have regret for the past, no, turn my mind away. I did the best I could with the knowledge I had. You could change. If you did things that were destructive in the past, don't do them. That's the toughest. Now, we're going to find that we can only do this with God's help. Ishvara Pranidhana. Trustful surrender to God. So this is the simple practice of thought replacement. This is changing our attitudes. You can take on these ideas. I live and I move and I have my being in thee, oh God. One of my favorites. I can't, he can. I think I'll let him. When I catch myself thinking about what am I going to get out of it? You know, I'm not getting my needs met. You know, I have my desires. No, stop it, Jim. Be of service. How can I be useful in the situation? How can I be helpful to other people? How can I be of service? Tapas is the changing of a habituated flow of the mind into other channels. It creates resistance. It's not easy. And it generates heat. That's the literal meaning of tapas. In the end, we're only successful at it through God's help. But what does this do? This changes our sankalpa. And it will change our lives. Now, if you know Aham Brahmasmi, I am that witnessing consciousness, and all this is Brahman, and you've had that direct experience, it is a psychic revolution. Your perception absolutely changes. All right. I think this is a good place to stop. What's the verse for next week?
28.
Pardon me?
28.
28. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.